Hello, and welcome to my presentation. I'm HARE from Innovations in Dementia, and I'm going to be talking today about the Dementia Enquirers programme, and I'll be posing one big question. What does it mean for people with dementia to be in the driving seat of research? To help us answer this, I'm going to be drawing on our learning from 4 years of the programme, and I'm going to be asking, what are the barriers to lay people accessing the world of research? How can these be overcome? And what are the benefits of this kind of approach? At the end, I'm going to give you the link so that you can access lots of free resources to download. And I'd also invite you, as I'm talking, to log any comments or questions, and I'll do my very best to respond to those after the presentation. But before I move on, I'd also like to ask you to very, very quickly jot down what you think are the barriers for people with dementia doing their own research. We actually worked with many people with dementia throughout the programme. We had our pioneers, 9 people with dementia, all of whom had a strong interest in research and who worked alongside us to shape the programme and to make all the key decisions. But there were also hundreds of other people with dementia involved in the 24 mini research projects which we funded along the way. Okay, so hopefully you've jotted down some of the barriers. People with dementia told us that the world of research is incredibly complex to those who are not inside it. This won't be any surprise to any of you. The language is dense and complicated. It's full of jargon, acronyms, long, unfamiliar words and concepts. The ethics processes are very difficult to navigate in the UK, at least, and very off-putting and time-consuming. The research approaches and methodologies that are used are also quite difficult sometimes to understand, and there are very few places where they're set out simply. And time is also a big issue. Research can be too intense, but on the other hand, people with dementia also often have a short window of opportunity. So they have a real sense of urgency about getting the research done and published. But we did a lot to overcome these barriers during the first 4 years. Throughout the programme, we worked with people with dementia to make everything as accessible as possible. We learned that we had to put a lot of work into preparation before meetings. We had to organise travel so that it was easy as possible for people. We had to find venues that were welcoming and navigable. We had to summarise what we were going to discuss in ways which were accessible to people. And sometimes we would produce short films afterwards instead of long minutes of meetings. So it was all about simplicity. We also had to adjust the pace so that everybody could keep up. We had breaks at least every 45 or 60 minutes so that people could refresh their brains and have a cuppa and just relax for a few minutes, go to the loo. And each of the mini projects could identify what support they needed, if they needed any. Some people with dementia carried out their own projects completely on their own. Others had help with the admin, perhaps from their group facilitator or from a volunteer. And some linked up with universities. But the main thing was that they kept the control over their own projects. And of course, throughout the programme, we produced accessible resources which help those involved, but we also hope that they will be helpful to many others as well. On the left, you can see the Deep Ethics Gold Standards for Dementia Research, and that tries to simplify what we mean by ethics in research and the processes that you will have to think about. And then the green document tries to simplify research processes and tools so that they are accessible to everybody. And as I mentioned, it's really important to find venues for your meetings which are welcoming and accessible. They don't have to be expensive, but you need to have good food. We always ate around a big table. Time for socializing, hopefully some outside space. We had bonfires in the evening and sometimes candlelit music or early morning yoga outside on the lawn. All those things might seem like luxuries, but they're really important to help people relax and bond. So what have we found to be the benefits of people with dementia being in the driving seat of research? Well, many of them have testified that it has given them a real sense of empowerment and purpose. They're doing something useful, and whatever they are doing is under their control. Most say that they've found new skills and a new sense of self-confidence in themselves. And that's actually not only the people with dementia, but also the group facilitators and the researchers, the academics who've been involved. Very importantly, it gives them a sense of ownership of the research topics and the findings, because they've got skin in the game. It's so important to them that these things are researched. They've introduced new topics into the research agenda. In that way, it's been quite disruptive in a positive sense. And because they do have the lived experience, they have looked at the research questions and the methodologies through a different lens. We hope too that by demonstrating their skills and their ability, they will have changed attitudes of the academics they work with, but also of the general public. And by co-producing all the accessible resources, we hope that that will be helpful to many, many others who also find the research world very complicated. So I've talked about the barriers, talked about what we've done to overcome them, and I've talked about the benefits of people with dementia being in the driving seat. And I'd really like to invite you now to think about how you could help people with dementia to be in the driving seat of research, whatever your particular role. We can almost guarantee that this will enliven your work. You'll have lots of fun and you'll come up with something very fresh and very new. I promised at the start to give you this link. If you go on the Dementia Enquirers website, you can download lots of the resources I've mentioned and more for free. There'll be a short film coming out soon, which will summarize the program. So watch out for that on the Dementia Enquirers hashtag. And we'll also be publishing a book with JKP next year.